Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm going to be reading some fairly hyped fantasy. So firstly, I've got The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. All I know about this really is that it's East versus West, and also one side of those embrace dragons and use them as a part of their life, and then the other side thinks that dragons are evil and a plague upon the world or something. I actually did start this the other day and I am like 40 pages in. I'm not that far. It's already Thursday. I'm already very behind. I meant to be like halfway through this by now, but whatever. We're starting now. I will say the first couple of chapters of this were so heavy on the world building. It was like almost every sentence was either introducing a new character or talking about a new location or introducing some kind of like cultural concept. Whew, it was hard work. It was a bit of a slog to get through those first couple of chapters and like try and figure out what is actually important in here, because there's no way that I'm going to be remembering all of those things. And I do know there's a glossary on the back, but honestly, I feel like if you need to use the glossary to keep track of the characters and the concepts, what are these glossaries? Anyway, I feel like if you need to use a glossary, then the book's got too much stuff in it, basically. The only time I can think of an exception to that is when I read The Golden Key, and it had a thing in the back with some of the Spanish words because it's set in ancient Spain, or a fantasy version of ancient Spain, and so it had some translations which was helpful, and I didn't realize it was there till the end, and so it was too late. But anyway, this is very heavy to get into. Basically, we're following a girl who's going to become a dragon rider. And she is in the east, right? I can't keep east straight from west, because I feel like when I looked at the map, east and west were reversed. Oh no. Oh dear, I feel like this book's going to end up confusing me a lot. Anyway, it's an 800-page book with dragons. So far we've just got this dragon rider and this assassin. And like a lot of other characters, but I think those are the most important ones. I guess we'll see. So, I'm going to be continuing that. Who knows when I'll actually make more progress on it. As well, I just finished right now Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. So, I'm very proud of that because I've been working on the Grishaverse for a little while. And the whole reason I wanted to read the Grishaverse was so that I could get to reading the Six of Crows duology. And now I can. I will also say, so Ruin and Rising I thought was much better than the second book, Siege and Storm, in that series. I thought Ruin and Rising kind of had an interesting twist. There was still a lot of like relationship stuff that I personally didn't care about, and I also felt like a lot of the actually interesting parts of the plot were like skimmed over. And again, I just think that comes down to the fact that I'm not the target market for these books, which does make me slightly nervous going into Six of Crows, because I feel like that might still be true for these books. However, they're very hyped. A lot of people talk about them, so I want to read them so at least I know what people are talking about. So I've got the audiobook for both Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, so I should be able to read those this week. And I say this week, but it's Thursday already, so what I actually mean by this week is this week and next week, because I think that's going to be the actual time frame. Basically, it is the 21st of January, and I'm going to try and finish all of those by the end of January. This is the last book from my January TBR that I need to read, so if I can finish it, then that will be a success. Good morning. So I am kind of sucking at doing this vlog. This morning I brought my proper vlogging camera, but no spare batteries, and the battery is dead. Well done. So we're on my phone. That's good. As well, I haven't really been making great progress on the Priory of the Orange Tree, but look how well it matches my top. So that's the most important thing, I guess. So I'm now about 120 pages in, I think. And to be honest, I don't think anything particularly happened until we got to about 100 pages in, but I am finally starting to know who all the different characters are. There's quite a few of them. I mean, the ones that I'm the most interested in are this girl who's becoming a dragon rider in the east, where they kind of work with dragons. And then in the west, we've got this girl who's kind of like a bodyguard to the queen, and they believe that as long as the queen's line is kept alive, that this very evil bad dragon won't come back, and they basically think all dragons are bad, and also that dragons brought this plague. Actually, the plague bits are very relatable at the moment. So we've got this girl in the West who's trying to protect the Queen, but it also seems like she doesn't really believe the mythology around the Queen. She doesn't believe that the Queen's line is what is keeping the dragons away. And also, some of the dragons have been reappearing. Right now, I am actually on my way to my infusion, so every 6 weeks I get this infusion to keep my immune system in check. So I'm going to take this. Honestly, it's so heavy, it doesn't fit in my bag. It's very annoying. I'm going to take it into my infusion and try to read as much as I can during that. I wanted to finish this by the end of the month, and it's already the 27th, so I've only got a few more days left. I pretty much need to read like nearly 200 pages a day. I'm not sure if that's doable, but I'll try. The other thing that I have been doing is listening to the audiobook of Six of Crows. I don't actually know how much I've got left, and because I'm filming on my phone, I can't check without stopping the filming. But I suspect I must be getting pretty close to the end now. I've probably got a couple of hours left, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, I would say generally it's really well written. There are some really great lines. I felt like I didn't really care about the story until I got to the part where they started telling the characters' backstories. And I found that way more interesting than this heist they're supposed to be pulling off. In the beginning, it was just all about setting up this heist and Kaz bringing in all these different people to help him with the heist, but they were only really doing this heist for the money, and for me that's not a very exciting motivation. And just the whole way the heist is being organized for me is pretty unbelievable. There's parts where they're like, and this is what we did, it's so clever, and I'm like, well, that would never work. And then things where things go wrong, and it was obvious that that was going to go wrong, and Kaz is like, oh, I'm so shocked. And he's supposed to be like this amazingly smart guy, but still. Anyway, I know that it's very hard to write a clever heist, so whatever. And that's not really the point of the book. The book is more focused on the relationships. Like, there's a little bit of clever magic in there, but it's still mostly about the relationships. And again, that's the bit that I'm the least interested in, so I also definitely think the way that the audiobook is narrated kind of puts me off, because it's that style where everything's narrated in a very angsty, dramatic way, whereas I think if I read it, I would read it much less like that in my head, and as a consequence, I would like it more. But I really don't have time to pick these books up physically because I've still got to get through Priory of the Orange Tree. But I will be driving around a little bit today, so maybe I'll be able to finish off Six of Crows, and then I can start on Crooked Kingdom. Okay, so I had grand plans to be productive this afternoon. I had my infusion in the morning, and then I thought I'll take the afternoon off work and I'll catch up on everything that I haven't been doing. And now 7 o'clock, and have I done any of those things that I was planning to do? No. But I did have some really good naps, multiple naps, and I mean, I got sucked into doing a little bit of work even though I had time off, because it's all remote now, and if the team is doing something interesting in the chat, then you get sucked in. As well, I just think it's been way too hot to do anything, so bleh. But firstly, driving back home from my infusion, which is like a half-hour drive, very annoying, but I did manage to finish off Six of Crows, and I have to say, the last thing that happened with Nina, I really liked it. It kind of gave me vibes of like the Phoenix in X-Men. Not exactly that, but like sort of similar. Anyway, I'm kind of annoyed about it because I had plans to read Crooked Kingdom and then probably just be finished with the series, because like it's not entirely for me. Like, I don't care about Kaz and Inej at all, and I know a lot of people do, but I find their whole relationship really boring, and I don't really like this whole like super clever crime lord thing like Kaz Brekker, and also like Locke Lamora in The Lies of Locke Lamora. I'm just like, if you're that clever, stop committing crime. But whatever, so I don't care about them. But I am kind of invested in Nina and Matthias. Nina especially. And then I would also say from the first books, Nikolai? Is that his name? He was the character I found the most interesting as well. And the next books, the next kind of series is focusing on them, I think. So then maybe I do want to read it. Anyway, I'll start Crooked Kingdom, and I guess I will see what I think about it. I did actually try to start it, and I discovered straight away that my brain couldn't even be bothered listening to another audiobook. So, but as well, I made some progress on The Priory of the Orange Tree. I'm now up to page 224. I'm going to try tonight to at least get up to 267, which would mean I'm a third of the way through. That would still be very far behind in terms of finishing it by the end of the month. However, this weekend's a long weekend, so I might get more time for reading. But also it's summer, so we might go and enjoy the summer. I don't know. It depends on if Jace has to work. But anyway, this. I'm kind of conflicted about how I feel because there are interesting things happening and what's happening with the dragons is interesting. But I kind of feel like all the politics is kind of, doesn't seem very realistic to me. And it just feels like there's a lot of like mucking around and like stuff being included that doesn't need to be. This book is way too heavy to hold up while I talk about it. Oh. And then I guess that's the other thing, like, I took it to the hospital. It was too big to put in my bag, so I had to carry it separately, and I was already taking 2 bags because I had a laptop bag and my handbag, and then I had to carry a book. And like often I would walk around my house while I read so I can get steps and reading done at the same time, but like I can't walk around with this. I mean, I guess it would be more exercise, right? Oh, what I will also say, there's one bit where, so there's this dragon plague, this red plague, and you catch it by touching people when they have the disease. And so this one woman was touching someone that had the disease, and she had gloves on. And then later, this other guy touched her hands with her gloves on. And like, maybe you just got the disease? I mean, he's probably going to get it for different reasons anyway, but the fact that he was trying to avoid getting this disease and then he just touched her gloves, given everything we've learned with COVID, I was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Anyway, as well for COVID, in New Zealand we've had a few like extra, like we had a community case and like a couple of maybe other community cases. Everything seems to be managed okay-ish though. Like it could be managed better and we could have less stress. But it is a reminder that even though in New Zealand we mostly don't have to worry about COVID too much, still a bit of a risk. And my boss sent out a message reminding us to take our stuff home from the office at the end of the day because you never know when you might not be able to come back to the office, which is fine because I'm still trying to work from home about 50-50. But I do have to go into the office tomorrow, so I got a few more hours before I need to go to sleep. I've been super bad at going to sleep on time as well. So I'm going to go and try and be productive. But at least on my commute tomorrow, I can listen to some more audiobooks.
I could float without wings, touch the sky, feel the sunlight kiss my face, fly through space if I knew it would bring me close to you. People stop and stare so loud they watch me while I dare to suddenly dance.
Hello, so it is Sunday. I have no idea when I started this vlog. Oh, and my computer just started making noise. So sorry if you can hear that. I just edited a video and I'm exporting and it's noisy. Anyway, let's talk about the books. I am halfway through The Priory of the Orange Tree. Yay, well done me. How do I feel about it? There's definitely some parts that I'm really enjoying and there's some cool ideas, but one thing I noticed, so on the back of it, one of these little blurbs says, takes everything you think you know about high fantasy, rips it apart and remakes it. Nothing short of game changing. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a typical fantasy and like nothing that's happened in here so far has really been like super surprising. Maybe some things didn't happen exactly as I expected, but nothing's made me like be shocked or anything like that. So I wouldn't exactly call it game changing, but I've still got 400 pages, so I guess there's room for game changing. And like it's not terrible. I can see why people like it, perhaps, although that first 100 pages was still a slog. But I can see why people like it, and I'm not minding the reading experience, but it's definitely not a favorite like a lot of people have found it. I'm just hopeful for the last 400 pages. So today is actually the last day of January, which means technically if I don't finish it today, then I haven't finished it in time. However, tomorrow is a public holiday here, so I'll have more time for reading, so maybe I can finish it or at least be close to finishing it. And honestly, if I finish it before I film my wrap up, I'm just gonna count it as part of January. If that's cheating, I don't really care. I get to make the rules because this is my channel. As well, I have been listening, my phone is off charging somewhere. I have been listening to Crooked Kingdom. I'm only probably like 5 hours in and it's like 20 hours long. And we already kind of completed the thing that I thought was going to be the focus of the whole book. So that's interesting. But also we're kind of in this little period between that exciting thing and the next exciting thing, and it's a little bit slow. It's boring me, but I think we'll get into the next exciting thing and then it'll pick up. So I guess we'll see. I am probably going to do some more housework tonight. What time is it? Nearly 8 o'clock, but it's like finally cooling down, so I can finally motivate myself to do some housework. And so while I do that housework, I'll probably listen to some more audiobook. So I guess I will check in again probably sometime tomorrow morning. No promises. It is super hot today. I have been trying to like alternate between being productive and reading, and I have made my way up to, the only problem with cleaning is all the dust. I've made my way up to page 604, so I've got 200 pages to go, and I am enjoying it more. I like the way we're learning about like what happened in the past. So basically there's these two different religions that have different versions of what happened to this princess who was sacrificed to this dragon back 1,000 years ago, and it's kind of slowly revealed what happened there, and that is also very wrapped up with what's happening with the evil dragon that's coming. I will also say, so that both of those religions are from the West, and mostly we're following characters from the West. There's this dragon rider from the East who's the only character from the East. I guess the other guy started in the East, but he was from the West as well. So there's only the dragon rider from the East, and she isn't in the story as much as I thought she would be. I mean, I know eventually she's going to be a part of things, but it's almost like she's a side character, not one of the main perspectives. Also, she's a very similar character to our other main character. So they're both like young women. They're both amazing at fighting, and they've both made a decision that probably isn't the decision they should have made given the organization they're a part of. And I think they just feel very similar to me. So I don't know about that, but I feel like in the beginning, because I didn't like this so much in the beginning and I was a bit unsure about it, it's like for the rest of the book it's like I'm kind of making it have to like prove itself to me, whereas if it had just started with what it was kind of doing from about the middle, I think I would have been into it. So I'm trying to be open-minded. I think we mostly know about what's happened in the past now, and we're just building up to this final confrontation with the dragon, I assume. I hope there'll be some more twists and turns, but we'll see, I guess. As well, Crooked Kingdom, I am about halfway through, so I've got about 8 hours left to listen to. That one, I would say, like, it started out quite exciting, and then this middle bit, yeah, I'm kind of a little bit bored. There are little bits and pieces that are interesting. I liked when Wyland went to go and see his mother's grave and what happened there, but for the most part, what has been happening hasn't been that interesting. However, they are just about to kick off, I guess, the second heist of this second book, so we'll see if it goes to plan and whether it's interesting and what happens from there. I feel like there need to be a lot of stuff wrapped up in this book for me to be satisfied, and I don't think it's all going to be wrapped up, and then I'm going to need to read the other books in the series, which is kind of annoying. Anyway, I should get back to being productive. So it is Monday night. Last night I kind of just got distracted being productive, which isn't entirely a bad thing, but I didn't manage to get through as much of this as I had hoped. I am currently up to page 650, so I've got 150 pages to go. I think at this point that I've just accepted that I'm not going to have finished this by the end of January. However, I'll take the first few days of January to finish it off, and I think since I still made good progress in January, did I just say January like 3 times and I meant to say January, February, January? Anyway, I'm going to take the first 3 days of February to get this finished off, and since I made such good progress, it doesn't warrant a punishment or anything. It's fine. I don't really want to rush it. I got lots to do. As well, This might be an unpopular opinion because a lot of people really love that this is a standalone, but I really think it would have been great as a trilogy. There's a reason why fantasies are often trilogies. I think there is kind of an event that we're building towards in the first part. That could have been the first book. There was a part about page 600-ish, which I thought would have been like a real epic ending to the second book. And then the last bit with the big battle would have been a good third book. And I think that that would have meant each book could have been like 400 pages, and even though that then would have made this like 400 pages longer in total, it would have meant that certain parts that I think feel a little bit rushed could have gotten a bit more attention. I do also think there's parts in here which don't necessarily need to be included. I'm not sure. Either they don't need to be included or they needed more detail if they were going to be included, because there's no point giving us like tiny bits of things but then not really getting into it. That's my opinion. I think this should have been 400 pages longer. Okay, distracted by a noise out of my house, but I'll see if I can get to page 700 and something tonight. Hopefully I can leave work early tomorrow to make up for the fact that I had to work late tonight. As far as Crooked Kingdom goes, I still feel like there was a few good bits, but this whole middle bit has been very just like bitsy. And the only really cool bits were stuff with Nina, of course, my favorite character, and also like this other girl that Inej met up with. I thought that was pretty cool. So I should be able to finish this tomorrow, hopefully. But I don't know, there's some cool things. I definitely see why people like it. It is really well written, but at this point, I can't tell whether I don't like it or whether I'm just convincing myself that I don't like it. But definitely the end of Six of Crows, I was really paying attention to the audiobook. This middle bit of Crooked Kingdom, I've really been struggling to keep interested, and there's only been a few bits where it's really pulled me in. Anyway, I do need to do some things tonight, so I will probably see you tomorrow. Okay, so I lied. It's 2 days later, but I'm only 1 day away from surviving another week where I had to go into the office every single day. We're meant to be in a post-COVID world where we can work from home a lot, but it's fine. I had to go in for different reasons. It's really not that bad. My teams are lovely, but I just hate the commute. Anyway, what the commute does give me is it lets me read my audiobooks. So I managed to finish off Kings of Crows. What am I even talking about? My brain might not be working anymore. I finished off Crooked Kingdom. That's what I want to say. And like, actually, I finished up driving home, but on the way there, something happened and it made me really angry. I can see that the author, obviously, like Leigh Bardugo, would have had a plan for this thing to happen, and so she made it happen, and it kind of made sense in like the broader ideas and themes of the story, perhaps. But the actual way that it happened didn't make sense to me. You've got all these really powerful Grisha around, and then that happens. I don't think so. I think that's dumb. I think it could have not happened. I think there was so many solutions to the problem. Anyway, that made me really grumpy, and then the ending just kind of happened, and I found like the very ending to be like a weird place to end things. And I still don't really understand, like, are we meant to believe that Kaz is like almost a good guy, because he's really not that much better than some of the bad guys. Is he? Is he? Maybe a little bit, but he also does some pretty bad stuff. Anyway, I do think I like Six of Crows better, but mainly because of the Nina portions. Nina did some cool things in this, but I would say the best character in Crooked Kingdom was this assassin that Inej fights at one point, but she's in such a tiny part. Like, that was such potential wasted on that character because she had some really cool aspects, and then there's no more of that character. Anyway, I finished Crooked Kingdom, but it wasn't as good as Six of Crows, and so I'm probably just going to give it 3 stars. It was fine. I see why people like it. I still don't know if I should continue the series. Let me know what you think. Should I continue the series? Like, read the Nikolai books with Nina in them? I do love Nina. I'm also really annoyed. So they're going to be doing a TV show of this, which I will now watch to see how they do it, because I think there's so much potential in this world that it could be really cool. Definitely when I was reading Crooked Kingdom, there were some scenes that I was like, this bit will be cool on the TV. But also, like, they've been releasing these pictures of the characters, and the pictures of Nina are very disappointing, and some of the characters get these like special single shots all about them, whereas Nina's one of those. Is Nina going to be a focus of the TV show because she needs to be, or I'm going to be annoyed? Really, just get rid of all the other characters and just have Nina. Anyway, I don't even know when that's coming out. Let's look it up. Oh, April the 23rd, probably just in time for my birthday. So, right now it is 8:30 and I'm going to try and finish this tonight. I have also accepted that it's the 4th of February, so if I finish these ones, even though I haven't filmed my wrap up yet, it's February. These books are going to go over to February. I already read 13 books in January, so that's already enough to include in my wrap up. So these are part of February. So last night I got up to page 732, so I've got like 70 pages to go. I should be able to finish this tonight. I do kind of feel like the ending is just going to be quite predictable and happily ever after, which maybe isn't completely bad, but sometimes it can also be a little bit boring. Anyway, I'm going to finish this and then I guess I'll let you know, but it might not be till tomorrow because it might be too late and I might be too tired. Hello, it is the weekend. I'm wearing my like lazy clothes again. I'm sure I was already wearing this in a clip earlier in this vlog, but whatever. I finished reading The Priory of the Orange Tree. And I really don't have that much to say above what I've already said because the ending, as I expected, just kind of like was quite predictable. There was a bunch of the... Oh my god, shut up, cicada! Sorry about the cicadas. They're very excited about being alive. There's a bunch of like newish characters introduced at the end that I felt like was a complete waste of time to even talk about them because there was really no room to do anything interesting with them. They were really just there to help with the final war, and I just feel like there should have been some more exciting things in the last 200 pages. 200 pages is quite a lot, you know. But I also think for people who were very attached to the characters through the story, then they might have found the ending more satisfying than I did. Anyway, this is a weird book because normally middle of books or like the middle book in a series is often the weakest, but with this book I actually feel like the middle was the strongest and it's the beginning and the ending that were a bit weak, which is kind of hard because then like it didn't start out well, it didn't necessarily end well, but I still kind of enjoyed the experience. I mean, there was a lot of middle in this book because it's a big one. Anyway, I finished it. I would say reading hyped books over these last, it was actually 2 weeks, like they were fine. I can see why lots of people like them, but I wouldn't say I loved them. Next vlog, I'm going to read books that I think I'm going to give 5 stars and we'll compare the experience. But anyway, I should go and do some other things. So thank you for hanging out with me these last 2 weeks. Do let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and I will see you next time.